Hey guys, Garrett with TEQSPORT here, and today we're going to be installing our 30-inch Lightbar stealth mounting brackets for our 3rd Gen Tacoma. On the table you can see we have our two styles of Lightbar, our single color, this one's the white lens, or we have our double color, which is amber and white. The difference between these two is one of them is going to have 2 holes on the side and one of them will just have 1. The brackets will work for both. In terms of hardware, everything comes with the kit except for the washers and lock washers. This will be provided in the kit with the Lightbar separate from the bracket kit. Tools wise, all we're going to need is a 13mm socket, a 10mm socket, some sort of other 13mm ratcheting wrench for the sockets, and some sort of pry tool to remove trim clips. Today we're just going to use flathead screwdriver. In terms of hardware, we're going to start with our M6 bolts with a 10mm head, our lock washer, and our normal washer. We're going to put the lock washer on first, followed by the normal washer. That's going to feed through our front slot into the very front hole on the Lightbar. Just thread that in by hand until it's nice and loose. We want these to be able to move around while we're installing it because it's a bit tricky once we get to the truck part. We're not going to install that second bolt yet. It's a little bit easier once we're got it into place and these brackets are free to move around. On the truck, we're going to start by removing the 10mm nut here and here. We're then going to switch to our pry bar, and just by the headlight there's a small trim clip. You're just going to want to put it under that top tab, lift up, and remove the clip. Set those to the side along with your other 10mm bolts. Attached here will be a wire harness. There'll be 2 clips that hold that cable in place. You're going to want to go ahead and squeeze out those clips and disconnect this cable. Then you're ready to remove it. Go ahead and lift up on that front part and pop those off of where those 10mm bolts were. Pull back and then adjust your hands to the bottom to guide it out of place. Once it's free, that's all you need to do. Set this to the side for later. And now we've exposed where we're going to mount it. So there will be 2 more trim clips here that hold the top part of the plastic bumper on. We're just going to need to remove those as well. Now that we've got everything removed, we're ready to insert the Lightbar into its position. This can be a little tricky, and that's why we want to leave these loose. But you're going to want to feed with the Lightbar facing down into this slot right here. I found it's easier on this right side. You're going to slide it down, trying not to damage any important cooling components. Okay, now once we've gotten our Lightbar dropped into place under the core support, we're going to grab our other set of hardware, and we're doing the dual color lens, and we're going to go from the side and just go ahead and try to thread those other pieces in. This is a lot easier when it's not fully attached because you can actually reach that second hole. Now that we've got all 4 bolts on both sides of the brackets, you can see that we've tilted them up so that they're roughly at the same plane and they're ready to be mounted to the core support. All right, so now this can be easier with 2 people, but with 1 person, you're just going to want to lift the Lightbar from around the middle and pull it up into place. Okay, now that we've got our full 4 bolts in place, we're ready to go ahead and install the top washers. We're just going to feed these under the piece of the plastic, aligning with the core support holes. Now that we've got our holes roughly aligned with the core support holes, we can go ahead and drop one of our bolts through the holes and reach around the back side and thread it into place. Once those are in place, we can go ahead and drop our hardware into those holes. Okay, now that our hardware is in place, we're going to reach to the middle of the Lightbar, making sure that we don't knock our hardware loose and that we're lined up with our bottom bracket holes. Now that we've got our hardware and our top washers in place, we're going to pull from the center of the Lightbar and align that bracket into the center of this core support beam and align it with our bolts. You're then going to take your lock nuts and reach around the back side and thread those into place. This can be a lot easier if you have 2 people. Once we've got those started, we're ready to go ahead and tighten up these 4 top core support bolts. Then we're going to take our 2 13mm wrenches. We're going to reach around the back side with the socket to get a hold of that lock nut, and then we're going to come from the top and tighten with our other 13. Once we've got those 4 bolts tight, we're finished with installing the brackets. The only thing we need to do now is get this wired up and adjust our light bar so that it shines how we like it to. You can look from the front and see how the beam will generally go. Sometimes it might require you to fully wire up the light and turn it on and adjust this as you would any other light bar. Once we've got our light bar adjusted, we're now free to tighten up these 4 bolts on either side of the light bar. It can be a little tricky because of these plastic air guides on either side. If you want, you can remove them. It makes it a little bit easier, but getting those in and out on themselves is a difficult task. Unfortunately, these plastic air guides are a bit in the way. So when you're using your socket, it can be easier to also use a flat 10mm ratcheting wrench, but it is possible with either. You're just gonna reach around the backside here, pushing out on this plastic panel as much as possible until you can kind of feel getting this socket onto the side of those 10mm adjustables. Once you're on, you can go ahead and tighten to however much you think you need, but it's important to do this because if not, your light bar might bounce up and down or totally lose its angle altogether. It's important to tighten these side bolts down once you've got it in place because you don't want your light bar bouncing up and down or moving out of position on the trail. Our positive is just going to go straight to the battery terminal here, and then our negative is going to route to the ground bolt here. You can go ahead and just remove this 10mm bolt, install it, and the same thing for the positive. Once those are in place, we can route our switch through the firewall into the cab. The other side where it connects to the light, you're going to want to pass through this hole here. You're going to route your DT connector cable through this hole in front of the air guide and connect it to the harness that comes off of the light bar. Once those are in place and everything's connected, you can zip tie everything how you'd like. I would avoid any sharp components that might potentially cut these cables. Once we've got everything wired up, fully tightened down, we can go ahead and reinstall our front bumper cowl. It's important that these bottom 2 tabs line up with the corresponding holes here and here. So go ahead and tilt those into place so they're fully aligned, and then just rock the whole panel forward and in. Once it's in place, you can check your body lines and make sure everything's lined up as it should be. You're just going to make sure that these top pieces align with your 10mm bolt holes, and our trim clips are on the right side. Once it's back on, we're just going to grab those 10mm plastic screws again and go ahead and put those back in along with the trim clips on the sides. Make sure to do these 2 plastic screws hand tight and not any tighter so that you don't strip out the plastic trim clips on the other side. Last thing you're going to want to remember to do is reconnect this harness. If not, the car will remind you. Put that back into place, insert the trim clips back into their respective holes. Once you've run your cable through the firewall, you're able to place the switch anywhere you'd like in the cab. We've chosen to maintain the stealth aspect and put it back in this small change container on the backside. Now, you might be wondering if this piece of plastic is going to be in the way of your lights. Now, we found that on the trail, we couldn't even tell it was there. It doesn't affect the light beam at all. But you do have the option to trim this out if you'd like and push that light forward so that you can see it. However, I think that defeats the point of a stealth light bar. So if you're looking for unique lighting solutions for your 3rd Gen Tacoma, look no further than our stealth 30-inch light bar mounts and any other Limelight products on TEQSPORT.com.